Welcome to the start of my new video series aimed at helping aspiring Final Fantasy XIV players improve at the game's fundamentals, whether it be taking on an ultimate, most recent Savage tier, or simply doing the dungeons for the story. Some jobs are just straight up better than others when it comes to starting the game. They offer more intuitive play styles to lead you into playing the game efficiently. Before we go any further, this is not me saying which jobs are good and which are bad, but more me trying to steer new players in the direction of job choices more catered towards learning the fundamentals. Let's get into it. With that out of the way, let's talk about why you're here. Warrior is an extremely well-rounded tank that does reliable damage, enormous self-healing, and provides a shield for your party. Warrior is a pretty beginner-friendly job because it doesn't really lose its usefulness in higher level content. It starts off as a Marauder, so you can get this job as soon as you install the game, even on the free trial actually. As you level the job, it gains access to mitigation like any of the other tanks, yet has the most fail-safes to carry in casual content. You'll have access to healing that other tanks just don't have access to, which is pretty noticeable in dungeons specifically. Let's talk about the basics, the mitigations. Like every tank, Warrior has 3 shared mits: Rampart, Reprisal, and Arm's Length. Rampart's just going to give you a 20% damage reduction, Reprisal is an area of effect, 10% damage reduction, and Arm's Length slows the attack speed of enemies. These skills are really important in dungeons, so always use them. Next we'll talk about the Warrior-specific mitigations and utilities. So first up is Thrill of Battle, which is going to increase your maximum HP by 20%, and also increase your HP recovery and healing by 20%. Next is Vengeance, which provides you with a 30% mit, and also reflects a little bit of damage back to your attackers each time they hit you. Equilibrium is a hefty self-heal, which also provides modest healing over time after usage. It's worth noting that you can also use this while Thrill of Battle is active, to increase the healing. You should try to do this whenever you can. Your most important mitigation is called Raw Intuition, which is later renamed to Bloodwetting. Bloodwetting is a mitigation on yourself, but also provides a shield upon use. It heals you as well, every single time you strike enemies. So in dungeons, if you activate this ability while rolling your AoE GCDs, you'll full heal yourself 3 times in a row. An extremely important detail is that during a dungeon pull, your Raw Intuition or Bloodwetting will full heal you without the use of Thrill of Battle, and you should separate these. Outside of dungeons, it is good to combine the two. Lastly, you'll have an off-global cooldown called Shake It Off, which provides a heal and a shield to your party. It's extremely clutch in raid environments, and it's worth noting that if Bloodwetting or Vengeance is active when you use Shake It Off, it will remove either one or both of those abilities, but it'll amplify the shield. Warrior's invulnerability is arguably the worst by far when it comes to casual play, due to its relatively janky usage. If you have an enemy targeted with Holmgang and they're out of range, your invulnerability will not go off. For that very reason, I've provided a self-cast macro in the description of this video. Other than that jankiness aside, it's particularly strong in endgame content due to it being the shortest cooldown out of all tank invulns, which means it has the unique mitigation roadmap that a lot of other tanks don't have. Okay, so now that we've gone over the mitigations, we can talk about its damage. First, Warrior has a standard 3-hit combo, but has 2 different third hits that you can pick from. You've got Storm's Path, which does the same damage as Storm's Eye, but heals you, and also gives 10 more gauge, and whereas Storm's Eye will give you a damage buff for 30 seconds. Other than the combos, Warrior is a gauge job, meaning you can store up your gauge as you can complete combos to unleash stronger attacks. It boils down to having a single target gauge spender and an AoE gauge spender. It's worth noting that the AoE gauge spender is only worth doing if there's 3 or more targets. The complete Storm's Path combo gives 30 gauge, whereas the Storm's Eye combo only gives you 20 gauge, so try not to overcap. Now that we've gone over the damage buff and how the gauge works, let's talk about the ways to spend your gauge. Before level 70, you have a skill called Inner Beast, which is unlocked at 35. Inner Beast costs 50 gauge to use, and does massive single target damage. You'll eventually get an AoE counterpart called Steel Cyclone at level 45. To keep things real with you, These abilities are renamed and no one uses those names, so once you're a little bit higher level, you're going to get Fell Cleave and Decimate, which is the single target and AoE versions of those. And I'll be using those names for the rest of the video. Just remember they both spend gauge, one single target, one's AoE. And then once you get level 50, you'll get a skill called Infuriate, which just gives you 50 gauge, making it easier to spam those stronger attacks. Warrior really starts finding its identity upon reaching level 70. You'll get a skill called Inner Release, which puts a buff on you that lets you use 3 Fell Cleaves or Decimates at no cost to your gauge. Starting an encounter is as simple as applying your Storm's Eye buff, popping Inner Release, and then spamming Fell Cleave. The job starts playing itself at this point, and your only real responsibility is maintaining your Storm's Eye buff and trying not to overcap your gauge past 100. Overall, whilst Warrior is a strong choice for newer players, it doesn't fall off at the top end either. Its mitigations make it very easy to be self-sustainable, and is the most common main tank in raids due to its ability to help healers by taking care of itself better than the other tanks. Warrior has also been slowly fed buffs here and there since the release of Endwalker, to have it catch up in damage output in the endgame. If you've been interested in tanking, it's a great time to pick up the axe. While we really only scratched the surface of Warrior, I hope I've been able to pique your interest on giving it a go. If you liked the video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. This is my first attempt at something like this, and I'm eager to finish this series and give my opinions on what I think the most fruitful jobs to pick up are for aspiring legends.